Welcome to GOAT James Kingdom, where basketball lives forever. Here in GOAT James Kingdom, we attack the GOAT debate head on, where we challenge all Michael Jordan fans and all LeBron detractors to who is the GOAT of basketball. You can catch us every Sunday noon Eastern Time, right here on the GOAT James Kingdom channel, for the GOAT James Kingdom show with B. Lee and A. Johnny. Also, we go live Friday nights with the Friday Night Exposure with the Exposer, where you catch special shows and content as a GOAT James Kingdom follower and subscriber. Also, check out the GOAT James Kingdom membership, where you can get exclusive content.
I think the average fan knows, like, the mid-range shot's gone away, three-point shot in abundance.
Yep.
But, like, I'd like to dive into, like, some more, like, if not truths, some context. And, like, where are we with the mid-range shot? Why is the game gone the way it's gone? And I think we've talked about this. We've talked about this a little bit before, but, like, to start it off with some context, when I came in the league, I came into a team with 3 or 4 power forwards who couldn't shoot past the elbow, you know, that played on the block, right? The game was completely different. You know, nowadays those guys don't exist.
Right.
Those players are out of the league. They're either small ball fives or they had to be like more skilled playmaking perimeter players. So there's some context here. One, the evolution, okay? Why? Why did we go away from the 2 bigs, the power forward, throw it in the post, the center could be high in the parking lot the way the old rules were when I came in the league with guys lifted? You know, we took that out. We took out the lifted players, the illegal defense rules. Now the illegal defense 2.9 in the lane, a little bit more of a hybrid towards international college ball.
Welcome to GOAT James Kingdom. Welcome. I am A. Johnny the Exposer, and y'all have now been exposed by the Exposer. I appreciate it. And enjoy. I am called A. Johnny the Exposer. You guys are being exposed today.
Your opinion, I guess.
Move on from it. It was the 90s. That's it, bro. Move on from that. You don't know history. You don't know basketball. You just told me I'm stupid. But look how stupid you look because you don't know
I know all this
basketball. You don't know history. You don't know jamming. You don't know schematics. You don't know coaching. You don't know scouting. You don't know drafting. You don't know nothing but that Michael Jordan's great because the media said you that, so told you to say that. I know that is recorded, and you are officially being exposed by the Exposer, and you're going to sit there like a man and take this just like Buddy did 2 weeks ago.
Let's get ready to rumble.
Hey, get your numbers out. I had to get my numbers out.
Peace and blessings, y'all. Welcome to the Friday Night Exposure with the Exposer. I'm your host, A. Johnny, the Exposer, one half of the GOAT James Kingdom platform. Y'all already know what to do. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Don't be afraid to be a member of the GOAT James Kingdom channel. As you guys see, we are going to continue to grow and expand our content. As you see, we are doing wonderful things for the game of basketball. And here tonight, ladies and gentlemen, like I do on every Friday night for you guys, I bring a topic that is well-deserved. And today we're going to discuss how important is the mid-range game in today's NBA. As we can see, the GOAT actually spoke about the mid-range game. So we're going to discuss the mid-range game in today's NBA as LeBron James and Steve Nash got a chance to discuss that on the recent episode of Mind the Game, which if you're not a subscriber to that channel and check out those episodes, you're just not a real basketball fan, especially if you're a Zesty Jeffrey. You should be spending your time worrying about what LeBron James says. So you guys are going to quick to run to stuff like this. When it fits your narrative, we all know you guys are going to run to it. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that LeBron James spoke about. And one thing he definitely spoke about was how important the mid-range game was. And you guys are always the main ones. When I say you guys, I'm talking about the Zesty Jeffries who love to talk about the mid-range game. But obviously, you guys really don't break down the game. So we're going to talk about the mid-range game here on tonight's program. Thank you for joining me again on another great Friday night. As you guys know, I do what I do best. Shout out to everybody who's watching us as well on FYF Sports Debate. Y'all make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button to both channels. Also, check out FYF Sports Debate Clips channel. Become a member of that channel. If anything, be a member of GOAT James Kingdom channel as well. So we're going to have a great night discussing this. Thank you for joining me. As I said before, this is the Friday Night Exposure with the Exposer. I do this every Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on the GOAT James Kingdom channel. So as you guys continue to see that the game of basketball, right, is a lovely game. There's so many facets of the game that we can discuss and we can talk about. And having Steve Nash and LeBron James talk about the mid-range game the way they discussed it was very good. Again, I'm not one who thinks that the mid-range game is all that important in the game of basketball. You guys heard my take on it before. But like y'all would say, your GOAT said what it is, so why are you going to argue with your GOAT? I'm not going to sit here and argue with LeBron and Steve Nash, but we all know what LeBron James said. He said the mid-range game is very key to the success of great teams. LeBron knows the value of the midi. And obviously, we got the SGA picture there. Everybody uses SGA as the symbol of what mid-range games is, I guess, supposed to represent. I've heard even on recent conversations about how he and Kobe have very similar styles. It's very funny how people bring it up. But again, LeBron James did speak on the mid-range game. He did speak on how it was very important in the game. And let's go further on and let's let him and Steve Nash talk about a little bit further, because they're going to explain to us why the mid-range game is still obviously still important in today's NBA.
But really what's happened here is that now everyone, I think, the conversation largely talks about, for the average fan, we don't shoot mid-range shots anymore. We've taken them out. That's not true.
It's not true.
Role players don't shoot mid-range shots anymore. The role player in our league nowadays has to be able to guard multiple positions,
Correct.
Has to be able to make threes.
Yep.
And it's a bonus and growing if they can attack a closeout and start the blender. So that is what's happened here. I'm going to make the argument now, and I want us to talk about this at length, that the mid-range shot has never been more important for your creator, because teams are obviously going to try to take away the rim and the threes. Okay, so let me think of a number now. Depending on your model, but a few years ago, I was made aware to me that just the numerical value of a mid-range shot. So the average points per possession. Like I think this year, the average points per possession of an NBA game for the entire league is like 1.14. There was like 14 guys in the league who shot 1.14 efficiency from the mid-range. 14, right? Out of 400 some players. So the value clearly is not a high-value shot, right? But really what that's saying is that it's not a high value for your non-creator.
So that's very interesting, right? So basically what Steve Nash is saying is that the mid-range game is important for your creator, which is obviously the guy who has the ball a lot in today's NBA, because in today's NBA, the guy who's also your best shot creator is more than likely your best playmaker as well, or you want a combination of that. And the reason of this is always, and I've always stated this, is because of how great today's NBA is defensively. And you heard him talk about how, again, the idea is that teams defensively are going to prevent you from getting to the basket. That's your number one shot, right? We always talk about the analytics, right, is messing up the game because they got rid of the mid-range game, because now guys are only going to the basket, or they're taking these crazy three-pointers and they're shooting a lot of three-pointers and no mid-range game, right? But Steve Nash breaks down on how, well, the mid-range game is not really obsolete in basketball. In today's game, it's just obsolete for the role players. That's what the role players used to do in the heyday in the 1900s, and especially in Steve Nash's day, right? Which is going to soon to become the heyday when we're talking about Steve Nash's era as well. But that's another conversation for another evening. But for tonight, we're going to stick with the mid-range game, and we're going to discuss on how the analytics supposedly removed the mid-range game or the mid-range shot out offensively. But if that's what the analytics says offensively, then what does the analytics say to do defensively, right? That it would say to prevent the guys from making the shot at the rim or getting to the basket and prevent them from getting open threes. And like he said, forcing them to closing out on threes and forcing a team on the blender is what offenses want to do, right? They want you to either get to the paint and protect the paint, so they dish it out to the three-pointer, and if you run it out, then that way they can have a 4-on-3 scenario where the ball's rotating and they can put quote-unquote a defense in the blender where guys are rotating back and forth trying to cover and get to the ball, right? So if the actual analytics say to take the shot as close as you can to the basket or shoot a three-pointer, then defensively the analytics state the same. So for the creators, the mid-range game works for them because that's where they can work their area because that's the space that is given to them. And he's going to break it down even more on how the creators are why the mid-range game hasn't gone anywhere and how the mid-range game is very important for the creators of the game. He's going to mention the SGAs. They're going to mention all the great mid-range assassins that you guys talk about. He's also going to include LeBron in this as well, but they're going to discuss all of this because that's what I stated to you guys about the mid-range game is that it's now what the three-pointer was in the 80s, a last-second shot. It was the shot that where if I can't get to the basket and I can't shoot the three, well, then I'm going to take the mid-range. Right? If I can't get the shot to the big man down low, then we're going to rotate it to the weak side. And if I can't get that, then we'll just take the 18-footer, 20-footer mid-range shot. Or, if we want to take that back in the days. But then if not, last case scenario, we'll shoot a three. Right? That's how basketball was played back then. But today it's to the basket, three-pointer, then mid-range. Back then it was to the basket, mid-range, and then the three-pointer. That's the only difference. And now these other guys, right, who are the role players who were taking all these mid-range shots back in the days, now they're taking three-pointers, but now they're also defenders. Like they said, they just stripped away the big man. You don't need a four guy no more in today's NBA. This idea of a power forward being some guy that's a low block guy is no longer necessary in today's NBA. If you're not stretching and playing defense and be able to be a switchable component on the defensive side, you're a liability. And that's just today's game. But the mid-range game, as they explain, is all about the creators today. In today's NBA, it's how the creators, and when they say creators, these are the shot creators, the playmakers. Again, the SGAs, the Lukas, the LeBrons, the Jason Tatums, right? The Kawhi Leonards, the Jokers. Even they're gonna even mention Giannis in these discussions as well, because again, the mid-range game is not like it's not that it's gone. It's just that it's a last resort shot, but again, it is very effective for what they call the creators. So let's let them break down again how this works. Again, remember the main objective is to get to the basket. That's the main objective of every offensive possessions, and the main objective of every defense is to protect the basket because that's the easiest shot and the most dangerous shot to allow anyone to have. So let's let them explain again how further the mid-range helps those who attack the basket.
So I want to talk a little bit about teams know the number one value is a layup, number two is a free throw, number three really probably offensive rebound, threes. All right, offensive rebounds because you got a chance at a layup, you got a chance at an and one, you got a chance at free throws, or
you got the chance of not a defense.
Defense is closing it, right? Threes. So for anyone who thinks there's too many threes, I'd like to know your take on this. That's never going away. And it's not because we don't take mid-ranges anymore. Think about it. Luka, SGA is going to have, Shea is going to have the best mid-range year of ever in the NBA. Something like 60% on 15 mid-range shots a game. This is likely MVP, if not number two MVP race, having an unbelievable season, and he is shooting more mid-range shots than anyone else. But the key is like Giannis, who's picked up his mid-range game. Jokic, elite from the mid-range. KD, Luka, whoever these guys are, top players. What they are not doing is stopping driving the ball to the basket. So Shea still an elite, maybe the leader in drives, right? Same when push comes to shove, Luka, Jokic, trying to get to the rim.
Correct.
All right, so you heard what he said. The mid-range game, right, is a weapon and important for guys who attack the basket and get to the rim. As I explained to you before, the reason Zesty Jeffries loved the mid-range is because for Michael Jordan's sake, for his career, to be more effective at getting to the basket the way he was, the mid-range game helped balance out everything. It made it harder to stop him. It made it a weapon for him now. Because now if he couldn't get to the basket, he can pull up and hit the mid-range, or he can run around a couple of screens and catch the ball and hit a catch and shoot mid-range off of several screen pin downs, right? So you have all of these aspects that go on to what they say the mid-range game works at. And then you see they use SGA in these categories, but again, the mid-range are made for guys who get to the rim. Because you guys never talk about the guys who are elite mid-range shooters, but that can't get to the rim. So the mid-range game really doesn't matter to those guys. It really matters to the guys who are very explosive, who are basically high flyers, above the rim players, guys who are flashers, downhill players who can get to the basket. Having a mid-range game makes it you more of a lethal player, because the guys who have elite mid-range game but don't have great downhill games that can't get above the rim or can't be a high flyer and can't get to the basket well, you guys don't praise them. And a perfect example is that if we look here is that like DeMar DeRozan. If we look at DeMar DeRozan, you guys never like to give DeMar DeRozan the praise that he deserves for his mid-range games, although he is the elite. This is 2025. He's the guy who takes the most mid-range shots. I don't know where Steve Nash got that this guy was taking 15 mid-range shots, the SGA, right? Because that's not here. SGA takes 4.5 mid-range shots, shooting it at 50%. Kevin Durant shoots better than him from there. Devin Booker shoots better from him from there. But 50% is a super elite efficiency when we're talking about making mid-range jumpers. And even here, if we talk about guys like DeMar DeRozan, you guys don't praise him. You guys don't give Brandon Ingram any love for being a sharp mid-range shooter because he doesn't go to the basket that hard. You guys barely watch Orlando, so we're not going to talk about Banchero. Now, Kevin Durant, you guys praise because he's very elite when he gets to the basket. As you can see, he finishes at almost 80% when he gets to the basket, but he only gets to the basket at 2 shots per game at this stage of his career. And we're going to discuss why players at this stage of their career, the mid-range of the game, is actually more important when you get to the career level of Kevin Durant and LeBron James and the Michael Jordans late in the 90s and the Kobe Bryants and things of that nature. But we see, again, we look at Devin Booker. We look at the guys. We look at even Giannis Antetokounmpo has stepped up his mid-range game, right? Jamal Murray, right? You guys don't praise these guys for their mid-range game because they can't get to the basket. The reason you talked about Giannis Antetokounmpo about his shooting is because you guys say he gets to the basket. So you want him to have a better mid-range game, and now he has it. And that's why now it's more important, right? But the guys who don't get to the basket and who have a great mid-range game, you guys do not praise. Okay? So the idea of the mid-range, again, is predicated on the idea that the guy or the player is someone that can get to the basket. This is where mid-range is very, very important. And in today's NBA, the best way to get to the basket is obviously with your creator, because he also is one of your best ball handlers on the floor. Guys like a SGA and Luka and all these guys that you see that are dominant, right? That you guys love to talk about, the Jalen Brunsons and things of that nature. They're good going downhill because they're good at dribbling. LeBron James good at ball handling. He goes downhill. So these are the guys where the mid-range is very important for them because, again, if the defense is preventing you from getting to the basket, right, and they're playing a good job at protecting the perimeter, which is the three-point shot, then you would have to take advantage of the mid-range game. And they're going to talk more and more about it. And that's why it's very important for y'all to understand why the mid-range game is still an active part of today's NBA and why you guys think it's gone. Because, again, you Jesse Jeffries don't really know the game of basketball. You guys talk it a lot, but you don't really talk the game. You really just talk narratives. You understand what I'm trying to say? So when we see those charts that show, in 1995, this is how many shots were being taken from mid-range compared to today's NBA. Again, the common player has no use to be taking these mid-range shots. It is an inefficient shot. It is not a shot worth taking. It is a shot that is made for the real guy who needs to score, because the guy who's creating the plays, because he's the guy that's either getting you the shot closest to the basket or getting you the three-point shot. If not, then from there, he can break down anything else and get a mid-range shot off. So we're talking about being a 3-level scorer here. We're talking about being good at the basket, being good at mid-range, and being good at the three-pointer. And they also discuss what it is and being a 3-level scorer and how that mid-range is actually important within that concept of what a 3-level scorer is.
The one thing about the creators we're going to hit all three levels. And in order to be able to hit all three levels, it gives your teammates even more opportunities to do what they are out there to do. You know, by either extending the defense to the three-point. Okay, we're not going to, you're shooting 10 or 12 threes a game. Well, now we're going to extend our defense. We're not going to allow you to shoot the threes. But we're also going to protect the rim. But the creators in our game have always worked on mid-ranges, either if it's mid-range pull-ups, mid-range floaters, you know, turning drives into back downs, you know, to be in the mid-range. Like, you know, for me,
even mid-range post-ups.
Even mid-range post-ups. You know, you're getting a lot of guys in, you know, your former teammate Dirk mastered the nail ISO, you know, and at the time and when Dirk was in his prime and doing his thing, it was, I can get all the way to the rim. I can back you down from here, or I can face you up and shoot. No dribbles, use all my footwork, use all my pivots, and I'm gonna keep the defense so at bay and off balance that it's always gonna work to the benefit of our team. And that's what it is. I think, you know, like you said, the common fan will say there's no mid-range in the NBA anymore. It's just fast breaks, layups, threes, and free throws. But it's absolutely not true.
So you see what he's talking about when he's talking about being a three-level scorer, right? He explained how Dirk Nowitzki was in that category, and the idea of taking advantage of these aspects and these spots on the floor, right? And how these are the spots that you want your players to be, that are playmakers, that are shot creators. These are the areas that you are going to be effective at. So to be a good three-level scorer, right? Because if you want to be great at the basket, you have to be great at the perimeter as well, because no one's going to let you get to the basket if you really just can't shoot, right? Right? If you can't, that's why back in the days, a center needed a point guard. That's why it was very important to have a point guard, because for him to get the ball, you needed someone to get it to him. He can't dribble up the floor and get himself in that position to get to the basket as close as possible, right? So in today's NBA, if you want to get to the rim, you have to be obviously a great ball handler, and then you have to be great at facilitating too, because when they crash down on you, you got to be able to make the right decisions, the right place, see the right man that's open and get the ball to him. But then again, you also got to be able to be in the perimeter. Back in the days, like I said, the three-point shot was a last resort shot. But today's NBA, they just changed it, made the mid-range the last resort shot. So since you're going to take away my three-point shot, because that's effectively and efficiently the best shot to take after getting to the basket, well, then I'm going to take this mid-range. But you need your key player or your best player to be that three-level scorer. But in reality, if the three-level scorer is the paint guy, the mid-range guy, and the three-point guy, in reality, none of those guys in the 1900s were three-level scorers. You got to be efficient at it. You got to be good at it. Right? How many guys in the 80s and the 90s were truly three-level scorers? The sad part about it is that we don't have a record of that, right? Because if we go to the players, right, that were in the league in let's just go back to 1997. Let's go back to 1997 and see who were the top mid-range shooting guys of the NBA of that time and that era, and we can see what they were talking about when we're talking about this mid-range game and the importance of the mid-range game. So if we take a look at it here, let's go ahead and pop this up so you guys can see this on your screen as well, like I'm seeing it. Right? We obviously see in 1997, Michael Jordan had one of the greatest shooting mid-range games of all time. He was taking damn near 15 shots from mid-range, shooting it at almost 49%. But then we see the next level guys. Again, the guys that you guys barely praise, the Terrell Brandon. Half you guys probably don't even know who Terrell Brandon was. He was shooting at about 42.5%. You had Mitch Richmond. Everybody likes to talk about Mitch Richmond because Jordan gave him praise. We know Mahmoud Abdul Rauf was another guy who was good at the mid-range and good at pull-up game. Karl Malone was another mid-range assassin. Glenn Robinson, Reggie Miller, right? Tom Gugliotta, Glenn Rice, Kendall Gill, right? LaFonso Ellis. Again, we don't hear too many all-stars in this. And this is 1997. I don't believe in 1997 Mitch Richmond was an all-star, right? We know Karl Malone was an all-star. Michael Jordan was an all-star. I believe Reggie Miller was an all-star. Glenn Rice was an all-star. I believe Glenn Robinson made an all-star. But Tom Gugliotta, these guys are not all-star level type players. Again, Lloyd Voigt, this is who King's Speech Road brought up the other day. Lloyd Voigt who was taking 8 mid-range jump shots, shooting at 47.5%, right? But again, these were the guys that were taking again, y'all brought up Scottie Pippen can't shoot. Scottie Pippen was shooting at 43 and almost 44% from mid-range, taking about 8 per game. So as you can see, this is definitely different from when we were looking at how many guys, because again, the most in today's NBA in 2025, the most that was taken was DeMar DeRozan at 8 per game. And if we look at here, we got plenty of guys who take well much more than 8 per game in that era. So again, there is a difference, but if we look at how many threes these guys take, they don't take that many threes because that was the last resort shot. But the reason we're looking at the mid-range game and discussing the mid-range game is to discuss on how LeBron talked about the 3-level scorers. Being a 3-level scorer, how good are you at all 3 levels? How good are you at getting to the basket? If we look here, Michael Jordan getting to the basket, he only got to the basket 4.5 shots per game, shooting at 52%, well below league average, right? Showing you, again, this is Michael Jordan later in his heyday. This is why I would always tell you, Zesty Jeffries, that Michael Jordan went out here getting to the basket late in his career, and that's why he was taking a bunch of mid-range jump shots. That's why his field goal percentage went down precipitously as well in this era compared to what he was doing in the late 80s and early 90s, was because, again, he wasn't able to get to the rim as easy. He wasn't able to get to the basket as much, right? Again, we look at Terrell Brandon. He's not getting to the basket as much. These guys are all shooting well up below 60% at the rim. You can say it because they're playing against big men in the tree, in the paint, they can't finish. Karl Malone's shooting well at the basket. See what I'm saying? Glenn Robinson. These guys are not good at finishing at the rim. So all these guys, before we get to 60%, we get to Scottie Pippen. So we get Scottie Pippen, Karl Malone, Latrell Sprewell, again, a high flyer. But Latrell Sprewell, how good does he shoot from mid-range? 34%, because he's a high flyer, right? Scottie Pippen is a ball handler. He can get to the rim. That's why he's able to finish at the rim very well, plus his size. Pause. Karl Malone, we know he gets the ball in mid-range, and he works his way to the paint all the time. He can do that as well. But we always told y'all about Reggie Miller. Can't get to the basket, can't finish at the basket. Look at Tom Gugliotta. He gets 6 shots at the rim, but he shoots at less than 50%. These guys are horrible at finishing in the paint. All these guys are not good at finishing in the paint. Then you get, again, Grant Hill. Why? Because Grant Hill knows how to play basketball as far as dribbling and getting to his spots. So when he gets to the paint, he's a high flyer. He can finish. And then he has a mid-range game where he can shoot 44% from the field at 7 of them per game. So again, you can see a lot of these guys who are good at mid-range, as I stated before, are not very good at getting to the basket and finishing at the rim. It was only important, the mid-range was only important to the guys who were able to get to the basket, right, and be efficient at the basket, because now that mid-range shot became a weapon. Now it made it harder to play defense against you. And that's what LeBron's talking about being a 3-level scorer. In today's NBA, you have to be a 3-level scorer. Back then, you didn't need to be a good 3-point shooter. You could just be a good mid-range shooter, and that was good enough. And you can survive in the NBA. In today's NBA, you can't. Those are all. That's good enough to be a role player back in the days. Today, that's not good enough. You got to be able to shoot the 3. You got to be able to play defense. So that's why the 3-level score is very important, because you have to be able to score at the basket, because that's the shot we want. And if we can't get to the basket, again, because they're playing solid defense, we can't just get around any defender we want to. All right, even if we do, there's another defender to protect it, because again, teams are playing a lot of zones, a lot of intricate defensive schemes that you guys completely throw out the window when we're talking about all the analytics and why they take a lot of 3-point shots compared to taking mid-range, because the analytics also tells you to defend the 3-point shot in the basket and allow some mid-range shots, contested mid-range shots, because that's the least efficient shot. That's just the least efficient shot. But again, it breaks down the 3-level scoring that I was discussing, the 3-level the scores that LeBron was talking about, and things of that nature. But they go into deeper that as well when they talk about the mid-range game and how the mid-range game could be used in so many multiple different facets. So let's get to that aspect of the conversation between the GOAT James and Steve Nash. Again, this is the Friday Night Exposure with the Exposer. We are here discussing how important the mid-range game is in today's NBA. As we heard, LeBron James has spoken on the mid-range. He spoke on how important it is in today's NBA, and it still is going to be an important shot. And he just broke it down in so many different facets. So let's let them break it down in other ways, because, again, the Zesty Jeffries love to talk about the mid-range was just shooting, because that's all they know is shooting, because of Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan. Just shoot, chuck up a bunch of shots. But they don't understand the effectiveness of using the mid-range in general within your offense, because, again, they know nothing about basketball. So let's let LeBron James and Steve Nash break down the game of basketball for us.
Like you said, if it's OKC and Shea's getting blitzed in the pick and roll, and you're hitting Jaden Williams in the pocket, or you hit Alex Caruso in the pocket, you're at the mercy. You know,
you're scrambling.
If you're playing Boston and you're doubling Jason Tatum and you're hitting Drew Holiday in the pocket, now this guy is.
It's a point guard.
He's a point guard making 4-on-3 things he's been doing his whole career.
100%.
So it's like it is very key, and the mid ranges I think is very, very key to the success of great teams.
For sure. There's another element of it that I think is really important also to understand is, like, the math is the math. Like, I 100% agree that the mid-range shot is low value. Like I said, like, let's call it like just a concept, but like if only 14 in the teens out of 400-something players are efficient versus league average per possession, it's not a high-value shot, okay?
So you heard him explain it right there. Steve Nash said it off the top. Listen, it's not a high-value shot when the guys who shoot it at the best are the only ones that can truly shoot it at the average of points per possession, right? Now, where he's getting these numbers from, I would love to know. Again, they must be going to where Mars be going to these obscure sites, these obscure places that rack up these information on whatever sources they can get to track the NBA play-by-play to understand all these numbers and possessions that these guys are getting taken mid-range, because I've been searching NBA.com and don't find it. If anybody knows, leave me a message. Let me know about it. Explain it to me a little bit better. But either way, he was just talking about how points per possession is just not a good, effective shot. So you don't want just anybody taking that shot. But LeBron James also talked about how you use the mid-range in a way to exploit the defense, right? Because, again, this is a two-sided argument, ladies and gentlemen. When we're talking offense, it's not just offense. There's a flip side to that coin, which is defense. So if you want to do this on offense, what do I have to do on defense to prevent you from doing what you're trying to do on offense? So when we're talking about the game in that aspect, and we're talking about mid-range in that aspect, you see how LeBron broke it down on how when teams are blitzing an SGA, and now he can dump it off to the guy who's sitting in the mid-range by the nail in that pocket, and now he can be the playmaker to either get the ball on, because now you're playing a 4-on-3, right? So now you're figuring out who's the X man, who's the X out man, and how you can get things going. Who's the 2-9 man if he's even in your way, so you can get to the basket, right? So now, and then when you do it with like how Boston does it when you're trying to blitz a Jaylen Brown or a Jason Tatum, and now you get someone like a Drew Holiday who, like LeBron said, who's been making plays his whole life. You don't put him in a situation where this is what he thrives in. He has the advantage. So you took advantage of the mid-range game without taking a shot in the mid-range by just placing the ball in the center of the zone or in that pocket, like LeBron said, when teams are blitzing in that pick and roll situation. So again, the mid-range game could be used in a lot of different facets beyond just taking a jump shot. So you Zesty Jeffries who complain all the time about the game, you can't even explain it the way LeBron James and Steve Nash is explaining it. And this is the funniest thing, because, when I first heard of this episode and I knew I was going to listen to it, I said, oh, man, this is going to be crazy for the Zesty Jeffries. They're going to take this and run with this. But y'all don't understand the game enough to even use what LeBron James was talking about in the mid-range game. Instead, y'all ran to the other part of the show where LeBron James talked about him taking the last shot and how he felt about letting people down and losing games or making mistakes in games or just not being able to do the right thing, right? So we know all of these things is what Zesty Jeffries love to talk about, but again, they can't talk the game, because when it came to the mid-range game being discussed the way LeBron and Steve Nash broke it down, they can't do it, right? So that's why, again, when we're talking about the game of basketball here in GOAT James Kingdom, we break it down for you. We tell you that the mid-range game, it is what it is. It is the least efficient shot. It is the last shot you want to take in today's game. And it's not really a weapon as far as the shot in general, because we're going to go look at the teams and how many shots they take and who are the best mid-range shooting teams in the league and see if that helps you understand what I'm talking about. But that's where obviously we heard LeBron James say what he said was basically, hey, the mid-range game is key to the success of great teams. So he obviously understands how the mid-range works and how all of this comes together. So, this is a great program, ladies and gentlemen. Again, this is the Friday Night Exposure with the Exposer. You guys make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We are going live right here every Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern on the GOAT James Kingdom channel. So y'all make sure to subscribe, hit the ring notification, comment, share our content. Be sure to check us out every Friday night right here where I do big things by talking the game of basketball, even open up the panel for you guys to speak. But at the end of the day, we are here to talk the game. We also do that well. That's why we're allowed to go live on FYF Sports Debate. Shout out to everybody who's watching us there. But we all know that this is what I do best. This is what I do. I expose the game of basketball. So we got a chance to discuss the mid-range game, right? We got a chance to listen to LeBron James and Steve Nash break down how the mid-range game is technically still alive. It's still an effective shot in today's NBA. It's still an effective part of the game. And they broke it down to how it's basically predicated on the creators, right? And why it's important, because the creators of the game, the guys who create plays, who create shots, these guys need the mid-range game. They need to utilize the mid-range because of how defenses are defending them, how teams are protecting the paint, they're protecting the basket, teams are protecting the three-point line. They're forcing teams to basically use the mid-range, right? So you have to have it. It has to be a part of your game, right? You have to be able to use the mid-range. So they discussed all that. LeBron James talked about the three-way player, right? The three-level score. The three-level score is an important. So then this is why this is going to be very important to have this conversation and to discuss this, because the mid-range game for Zesty Jeffries seemed to be the most important aspect of being a player. To them, they think the one dribble pull-up from the midi makes you good, whether it's a good shot or not, right? They love to talk about how they don't like the three-point shot because it's a bad shot, because they think it's an inefficient shot, but somehow they praise a truly inefficient shot, which is a contested mid-range jumper, right? They love to do that. That's their key thing. That's what they do best, right? And again, it's very important to them to talk about it because they like to talk about it in the sense to make it seem like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant were these three-level scorers. They had every aspect of the game locked down. We already showed you how Michael Jordan was weak at getting to the basket. He was weak at finishing at the basket in the 1997 season. And it doesn't get better, lady. It's not like if we go to 1998 or when he was in Washington, it gets any better. Michael Jordan was just not that dude, right? And but the Zesty Jeffries can't understand that, right? And the use of the mid-range, again, is very important. That the NBA knows it. The NBA players know it. But the idea is that they love to bring up the mid-range jump shot, and they like to make it seem like LeBron James can't shoot mid-range jump shots. That makes him weak. They think he can't shoot three-pointers. So what they're basically saying is that everything LeBron James does is getting to the basket. That's all he does is get to the basket. But they don't realize that LeBron James is one of the elite players in NBA history at getting to the basket. And he's also very solid at the mid-range game, and he also is very solid at shooting the three-pointer, okay? And I've already broken this down because, again, we talked about how the mid-range game is only important to the players who can get to the basket, right? If you can get to the basket, then all of a sudden the mid-range game is something important to you, so you have to be able to get to the rim. Right? It's not a shot that is made for guys. It's not a shot that's praised for guys who can just shoot it all the time, mid-range. Like I told you, we talk about DeMar DeRozan and things of that nature. So when we're talking about guys who can get to the rim and guys who can also shoot mid-range and guys who can be good at three-point shooting, you know what I'm saying? And NBA history, where does LeBron James fall at? Where does Kobe Bryant fall at? Right? And I've done a show on mid-range to talk about this with you guys plenty of time to give you an idea of how good these guys are at mid-range shooting, and just to give you an idea of what is an elite mid-range shooter compared to a non-elite mid-range shooter. Because you guys love to think that SGA is an elite mid-range shooter. He shot 50% for this season, which is elite. I would not deny that in any kind of sense. But again, there are players who shot better than that, and there are other players who've done that, and we're talking about for your careers. So as an example, if we bring up, like I said, the guys who can get to the basket, right? You guys would think Kobe Bryant is one of those guys who can get to the basket, right? Of course, because look how Kobe Bryant finishes at the rim. He shoots above league average at the rim. League average is about 62%, just under 62%. He's shooting close to 64% at the rim. League average is above 33%, so Kobe's not really at an average mid-range shooter. He's just below average, but for me, that makes you average. So that means he can do that. And at mid-range, Kobe shoots 40.6%. Now, he's better than any one of these guys at shooting mid-range. But again, look at LeBron's ability to get to the basket. Again, LeBron finishes at the rim at the elite level of a big man, like a Shaquille O'Neal or Dwight Howard. All right, and again, he's dribbling to this point, and he's also the best three-point shooter of these three here. But the guys like Dwayne Wade and Allen Iverson are not considered bad shooters, even though they do not shoot well from three-point, and they do not have an elite mid-range game. But they were elite at getting to the basket and finishing at the rim, right? Now, Allen Iverson obviously was not elite at that because we know he was a small guy. He just went, and obviously in that era, guys were not that good at finishing at the rim as guys are today, right? But either way, this was the mid-range jump shots that we're talking about and the effectiveness of a mid-range shooter, right? So when we're talking about being a good three-level scorer, mid-range shooting, things of that nature, why is it always put on LeBron James? Because again, LeBron James was somebody who got to the basket. Because you guys don't praise the true great mid-range shooters like the Stephon Currys, like the Dirk Nowinskis, or the Kevin Durant's. And the reason you guys praise Kevin Durant for his mid-range game is obviously because he's one of the few in today's NBA that still uses it at an elite level. Because again, he's one of the guys who can get to the rim at an elite level. So when we're talking about three-level scorers, obviously these guys are better three-level scorers than Kobe Bryant, as you can see, right? But they don't talk about it in this sense because, again, they misuse and represent mid-range as the idea of taking a contested, tough shot, right? A shot that your team needs you to take. And you're going to make this shot because you can't get to the basket and you're definitely not going to take a three, so you might as well take this contested mid-range jumper. But when we're talking about guys who can truly shoot the mid-range and who can't get to the basket, who are average at getting to the rim and finishing to the rim, they don't mention how their mid-range game is not that elite. The guys who are truly elite at mid-range shooting, you guys really don't know how to praise them. You really don't. You really don't care to do that. So when we're talking about the elite scorers, the mid-range jump shots, taking three-point shots, LeBron James is definitely one of the best at it, if not for sure, better than Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. The only thing that Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant do better than LeBron James in the three-level scoring aspect is shoot mid-range. LeBron's better at the rim. LeBron's better at three-point shooting. By far. By far. So the idea of this mid-range needing to be important or not being important in today's NBA, it still is important. It still is an effective shot for guys like a LeBron James, guys like a Kevin Durant, guys like a Luka Doncic, guys like a Joker, guys like an Embiid, guys like a SGA, guys like a Jason Tatum, guys like a Jaylen Brown. So many of these great playmakers in today's NBA and creators is great for, because there's so much great defense in today's NBA that you have no choice but to use the mid-range if you want to be an effective scorer, if you want to be one of the best scorers, if you definitely want to be considered amongst the greats, because you have to be able to produce to be amongst the greats. And if you want to be able to do that, you have to be a three-level scorer in today's NBA. And we discussed that when we look at the players in today's NBA that are the best scorers in today's NBA, you're going to see that they are great three-level scorers. When we discuss the guys who are the best scorers in today's NBA, right, we're going to discuss the guys who are the best three-level scorers in the game. Not just the mid-range. When we're talking about the best scorers like Kevin Durant, he's great at the rim, 79%, great at mid-range, great at shooting threes. SGA, the same thing. Finishing at the rim, elite level. Same thing with Joel Embiid, Devin Booker, Giannis. All these guys that we consider to be great scorers in our league. Even we look at guys like Anthony Davis. Look at Brunson. You guys talked about, he even mentioned how Brunson and the New York Knicks take advantage of mid-range. Brunson takes about 3.5 mid-range shots per game, makes it at 45%, but he finishes at the rim at 64%. He finishes good from the three-point land. Kyrie Irving shoots 40.8% from mid-range this year, but he finishes well at the rim at 67.5%. Again, the elite scorers, LeBron James shoots 74.5% from the rim this year at the basket and shooting 43.5% from the mid-range, taking 3 per game. Look at Luka Doncic shooting 39% from mid-range, but Luka Doncic is one of the most elite guys at the rim. He finishes at 71%, and this is a out of shape Luka and not fully ready and healthy Luka. You know, when we look at the guys again, look at Victor Wembanyama, who's shooting great from the 3-point range, average from mid-range, 40% is average, right? Shooting about 75% at the rim. But the elite scorers are Jason Tatum, 72% at the rim, 39.6% at mid-range. Shoots good from the 3-point land. These are the elite scorers. Donovan Mitchell. Again, you have to be good. You know, even Anthony Edwards, when we talk about Anthony Edwards, he's not too great at mid-range at 37.6%, just below average. But hey, he's making elite at the rim possession. Well, not really elite, but good enough, right? He's above average, above 62%. He's definitely killing it from the 3-point land. So again, the mid-range shot in today's NBA is being used by the elite scorers, but they're also elite at other aspects of the game. It's not just that, because again, the NBA plays great defense. And this is one thing that I liked about what LeBron James and Steve Nash talked about, because they also broke down the idea of defense and how the defense affects the two-way affects the mid-range game, and how there's a two-way aspect or two-way effect of the mid-range game.
There's a human element on both sides of the ball that I'd love to hear your take on. One, if you know, as most defenses do, we want to protect the rim. Right, we want to take away threes, run people off threes. But if Shea's punching your lights out with mid-range shots,
it gets frustrating.
You're human.
It gets frustrating as a defender.
You're human. And so what happens is you may not even leave the game plan, but you're leaning. You're thinking instead of being instinctive. And so there's the human element defensively, which I'd like to hear, how you can break teams a little bit by getting them out of their defense by picking people apart here. And then the other side of it is offensively. Like, a lot of players get their rhythm in the mid-range. You can't, and like I've talked to some coaches in the league who, have been in the league for, 20, 30, 40 years. And they always say, you always want to find a way to get your best players shots. And a lot of times that's just spacing, get them go one-on-one, get to their spot. But how can you say, I want to get them a shot, I want to get them a bucket, and then say, oh, but by the way,
you can't take that.
Don't do these ones.
Yeah, don't
do these ones. Like, could you imagine, when I coached, I would have loved KD to take 8, 10, 12 threes a game. And he's capable, just rising up over people. But he gets so much rhythm and confidence from the mid-range, and he's such an assassin in there. It's a big change that you're probably not always going to net out on the positive, right? And you can say that about a lot of guys in our league, that top players, that they know hard dribble, feet set, up in the air. When you get that one to go, every other shot
their rhythm.
Is there, right?
It's their rhythm.
So that's a very interesting part of the conversation, right? Basically, he talked about it on the defensive side, right? He talked about, if teams are really doing a good job defensively, remember we talked about if the analytics say to take the shot at the rim or shoot the three, then defensively the analytics say protect the rim and run them off the 3-point line. So if teams are doing a good job of keeping you from shooting the three and getting to the basket, then taking advantage or creating shots or plays within the mid-range can distort what a team is doing defensively, right? And that's a great idea about, like he said, our game plan is to keep you from getting to the rim, but now you're hitting these tough contested mid-range shots, or now you're getting to these spots, right? A good aspect of what I'm talking about is how I always mention during that Jamal Murray shot over Anthony Davis, right? I always tell people how Anthony Davis allowed Jamal to get to that spot. He can't let Jamal get to that spot and rise. That is his shot. That is something that Anthony Davis needs to have known in the scouting report some way, somehow, that him going right, getting to that 15-foot fadeaway mid-range is not what you want from Jamal Murray. You want to push him further from that. You want to make him take a different type of shot. And even further in the show, you can hear LeBron James say that some of these guys even rather it be contested than uncontested because of the way they take it in rhythm, because they practice it being contested. That's how they work out on these shots. That's how they develop the intensity and the courage to even take those shots, right? And that was a part of what LeBron James talked about as well, about how he was nervous to let people down, was because he was thinking how you just have to remember You worked hard. You put yourself in this position. You know why you're here. You understand the moment. You understand everything because you built yourself to be here. You worked hard to be here. So you just got to let your hard work speak for itself and let things happen. Stop worrying about the results. And that goes along with the rhythm, the idea of a guy working on his shot so much and knowing his rhythm and knowing where he can take the shot. So when he talked about it on a defensive aspect, on how you can force teams to be out of rhythm defensively because they're not prepared to take care of you and you hitting these contested shots, because we're taking away the basket and we're taking away the 3-point shot, but you're still scoring. This is not good, and you're still scoring effectively, right? So when you got guys taking these mid-range pull-up shots and they're scoring from these mid-range pull-up shots, it builds a rhythm within their game. It allows them to now exploit more, because again, remember, the key thing is still to get to the basket. But they notice, okay, well, I'm not getting to the basket. I'm not getting the foul. I don't really want to take this 25-footer, this 27-footer. So let me just try to get close as possible as I can and pull up. So let me take this 12-footer. Let me take this 15-footer, right? So that's what he was talking about in that two-way effect and how that affects the defense, because, again, the defense is going to protect the basket. So once you're driving, right, they're going to try to make sure you don't get all the way to the basket. They're going to move you to a spot that's going to make it hard for you to take a shot. So when I was talking about, again, the Anthony Davis play, again, the defense has a job of making sure that these solid players, these 3-level scorers, right, these elite playmakers, these elite creators, are not being able to get to their spots and not feeling comfortable in their spots and finding ways to disrupt them. You understand what I'm trying to say? So, but that's the game of basketball that we're watching today, ladies and gentlemen. That's the back and forth. That's the game of chess that the coaches are playing with one another, and the players are playing with one another. And you heard Steve Nash say how the coaches ain't out here trying to tell you guys don't take this shot. They're not focusing on the analytics alone. They understand that there's a human element. He talked about it, how, you have to let Kevin Durant get his mid-range because that's how he plays, because he works on that. He works on getting his rhythm, getting his shot. Another thing I love to talk about is how this is very good. Michael Jordan never used to do pregame shoot-around till the 1990 NBA season, ladies and gentlemen. Michael Jordan did not do pregame shoot-around till 1990 season. And the reason he started doing it was because he realized within the triangle offense, he couldn't take the amount of shots he wanted to take in the game whenever he wanted to. So he felt that if he didn't warm up during the game, which is what he was doing prior to the triangle offense, was basically taking shoot-around in the first quarter, right? So that he can be in rhythm for the fourth quarter to do what he has to do to take the team home, right? So he can be Mr. quote-unquote clutch. He started to do the shoot-around before games so that he can be in rhythm for the game, because he realized that it was hard to find his rhythm within the triangle offense. And then for him to be asked at the end in the fourth quarter, well, here, start taking your shots, and now he's out of rhythm. So Jordan started actually doing pregame shoot-around during the 1990 season, in the early 89 part of the year, or late 89 calendar year, and he started to do the shoot-around so that he can find his rhythm to take all those shots that he needed to take, right? So that's the aspect of using the mid-range. The mid-range was a way to help you find your rhythm if you couldn't get to the basket, if you couldn't really get yourself going. Just like they say, go to the free throw line, see the ball go through the hoop at the free throw line. So I like the fact that LeBron James and Steve Nash really deep into the actual aspect of what the mid-range game is about. It wasn't just about taking this inefficient shot or this contested shot for the sake of aesthetics, for the sake of putting the fear in the opponent's heart. It was just the idea of, the mid-range game is still effective and important, because in today's NBA, you have so many great creators and playmakers that there's no way the mid-range game can't be utilized. And they obviously, players still utilize the mid-range game to take away from everything else that the defense is doing, and also to help themselves be able to get to the basket or get the three-point shot. I mean, again, it was a brilliant show by LeBron James and Steve Nash, and they talked about it in so many different ways, so many different aspects. And again, it is a great show. If you haven't got a chance to watch it again, you go see it. It is Mind the Game. They talked about mid-range. LeBron gave you guys gem after gem. it was really a great show, and it was a really short one too. I think it's about like 35 minutes, 37 minutes long in total. So as you can see, we were talking about the mid-range game. We were talking about how the mid-range game is a three-level scoring type of thing, right? And obviously the 1900s did not have three-level scores because nobody was really a great three-point shooter back then. And most of the guys who were great shooters back then, as you can see, they were not good at the rim. So there were not a lot of three-level scores back then. There's a lot more three-level scores in today's NBA. But even at that, you guys don't consider them three-level scores. Again, when we talk about guys like Dirk Nowitzki, you guys don't call him a three-level scorer, but he's elite at all three levels, right? Kevin Durant, three-level scorer, elite at all three levels. Even Stephen Curry, elite at all three levels. But somehow Kobe Bryant is considered an elite three-level player. Then you have the nerve to say GOAT James can't be a part of this elite three-level scenario, right? We're talking about guys like Steve Nash. And again, there's other players that are being involved in this because like I told you, remember, the mid-range was important for players who were good at getting to the basket. High flyers, guys who would get to the rim, guys who were downhill players, right? Those were the most important guys who were considered dunkers. That's what it was. That's why when I bring up guys like Dwayne Wade and Allen Iverson, these were flashing guys. These were guys who go downhill, go down into the paint. These guys were hard to cover. They would split double teams, right? And that's what we know Michael Jordan to be. That's why you guys love to mention Michael Jordan. But like I said, when you talk about true high flyers, guys who go to the rim and attack the basket, they were not elite mid-range shooters. The mid-range was a weapon that they used to help them because getting to the basket was their true game. But guys like Jason Richardson, Iguodala, and RJ were never considered three-way scorers, right? Even though we look at RJ has some good numbers. You can say he's a three-level scorer because he's on the level with LeBron. He's just above average or in mid-range shooting. He's definitely good at three-point shooting. He's just above average at the rim, right? Right, and again, these are the guys. That's why when you guys talk about mid-range, you guys talk about mid-range like it's crazy because if when you guys say, "Oh, Kobe's this elite mid-range shooter," well, he's not better than Paul Pierce. He's not better than Carmelo Anthony, right? And again, he's not that much better than LeBron James. He's just not that much better than LeBron James. And you guys love to bring up, again, I always told you guys about these high flyers, the guys who jump and can get to the rim and get to the basket very well. We talked about those guys. As you see, Kobe's just above average when we talk about getting to the basket. He's just above average. But that's what you guys, fail to realize. You see what I'm saying? But like I said, when we're talking about guys getting to the rim, high flyers, dunkers, right? You see what I'm saying? These are the type of guys that need the mid-range shot. But when we go to the 2010s, again, you got guys who are just good at the mid-range. You see what I'm saying? I mean, we look at these guys. These guys are basically around average, just above average mid-range shooters. Again, if you want to be a good mid-range shooter, you got to shoot somewhere in the mid-40s. Close to the mid-40s, 42, 43, 44%, right? Somewhere around these guys' numbers. These guys are shooting. These are really good mid-range shooters for their careers. Guys like Kawhi Leonard are really, really good at shooting mid-range, high three-level scores. These are today's NBA players, but we don't want to get to Michael Jordan's era. And the sad part is, with Michael Jordan's era, we don't really get to see everybody's numbers. But again, when we go look at 1998, we're gonna do some more research in a short second, and we bring up all the research for how these guys were shooting. Again, the mid-range shot has never been important, but it's only been important to Zesty Jeffries because of Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant supposedly having this game where it made them unstoppable. Which we all know is lies. And we all know Michael Jordan's mid-range was only elite because at the end of his career, he couldn't even get to the basket. He had trouble getting to the basket. And Steve Nash and LeBron James breaks that down as well because they referenced Harden and how late in his career he has been using the mid-range over getting to the basket like he used to in his previous years, in his younger days, in his prime days. and now how the mid-range works for him. So let's let LeBron James and Steve Nash continue more breaking down how important the mid-range game is.
One of the other things I was thinking, and I think you're like, some ways, you can play many different ways. But the one outlier here, and I think you're like, at times your profile when you want it to be can mirror it a little bit, is James Harden. So when he was at his best, like it was rim, free throws, grip of free throws, fooling everyone. You know, unbelievable downhill ability with size, athleticism, his crossover, playing on the perimeter, the step back threes, and then the floater. Which, you know, like is debatable. Like some of those are probably mid-range shots, but he was so good at the floater too that he didn't take really, you know, those. Right. Like I can't think of many more. You know, at times Steph can be a little bit like that, although he'll never devoid. You know, he's just so good from three and running off, and then defense makes a mistake or overplays it, he's getting to the paint. You know, you can do that when you want to, but you also obviously love the mid-post or elbows, wherever you needed to play against a certain team in different eras even.
Yeah.
But it is fascinating to think, like, what it says to me is how hard it is to stick to that shot profile.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost impossible.
It is.
Like, James is like the one kind of outlier that lived off that. And no offense, because he's still great, but as he's not quite as explosive anymore, he's taking more middies.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what does this all say to us about the mid-range shot, right? Right?
Yeah.
How hard it was for him then, and what an outlier he was, shot profile-wise and efficiency, to now, when he's not quite the same athlete, still an all-star caliber player,
right?
But he's taking more middies, right? It shows. Like, one, it's almost impossible to have that profile, too. And then, when you got to get your team a bucket, you can't just say, I'm not shooting these. So it goes back to, like the creator has to have the freedom to make and take those, or I don't think you can win.
So again, there he goes again. He's talking about how the creator needs the mid-range shot to help him out. And I don't know where he got James Harden taking a lot more mid-range, because James Harden takes about 2 mid-range jump shots per game for his career. And even in 2018 with the Rockets, he was taking less than 2 per game, shooting at 39%. So I don't know where he got that at. But again, in today's NBA, if we look at the players who take the most most mid-range jump shots, we can see it's DeMar DeRozan. He's the top of the league. He shoots it at 45.5%. That's good. That's very good. He's taking them very well. You know, Kevin Durant shoots at an elite level. We know SGA shoots it at an elite level. If we go to the guys who make the most shots and how good they shoot them, again, we got Kevin Durant here, SGA, Devin Booker here, Paolo Banchero. Again, all these guys are the only ones. There's only 6 guys who make 2 shots per game at the mid-range, right? So there's not too many guys effectively taking a lot of mid-range shots. But if we look at the teams and how teams score, the Orlando Magic are the number 1 team at taking the most mid-range shots. They take 16.6 mid-range shots per game in today's NBA. They make it about 43.4%. Milwaukee's the second most at 14 mid-range shots per game. They shoot it at 35%, which is well below league average. Then Indiana's up there shooting it at 47.8%, damn near 48%. They take about 13.5 mid-range per game. Then the Knicks, they mentioned the Knicks and how the Knicks utilize the mid-range a lot in their offense. But the Knicks take about 13. They're top 5 in mid-range and attempts. But they shoot it at 36.6%. So they're not that efficient at shooting it as you would like. OKC, the team that everybody loves to use with SGA, and they take about 12 per game, but they make it at a 40% clip, which is just above average, about average, right? Denver Nuggets, they got the Joker. The Joker, they take about 11. They shoot it at the same clip, about 40%. Then you got the Pistons next. So those are the only teams that take at least 10 mid-range shots or more. And again, a lot of these teams do not shoot it very well. If we look at, okay, hold on, I'm looking at the wrong numbers. Let me look at the regular season. I apologize here. This is supposed to be for the regular season. I ended up looking at the playoff numbers. I wonder why we were showing all these playoff teams. All right, so the team that does take the most mid-range shots for the regular season, all right, so what I just gave y'all, what I just ran down y'all, was what teams were doing in the playoffs, all right? In today's playoffs, in 2025 playoffs. All right, but in the regular season, this season, the Sacramento Kings is the number 1 team in mid-range. Obviously, we know they got DeMar DeRozan over there. They shoot it at 43%. Then Milwaukee was second. Milwaukee was shooting it at 44%. That's better, but they take about 13 mid-ranges per game. Then the Phoenix Suns take about 12 at 49%, which is very elite shooting mid-range. The Pacers are right behind at 11 shots per game at mid-range, shooting it at just below 44%. Then we got the Houston Rockets who take 10. They shoot it just under 40%. The Knicks are taking 10 per game, which is what LeBron James talked about. They're in the top 10 shooting at mid-range, but they shoot at 44%, so that's actually good. OKC, the team that we were talking about, take about 10 mid-range shots per game, so I don't know where they get SGAs taking 15 per game when the team alone takes 10, and they make him at about 45% clip. Then you got the Orlando Magic at the last team who take at least 10 shots per game at mid-range for the NBA season, and they shoot it just below 90, just under 40%. So when we're looking at all these teams, not too many of these teams shoot them in the high 40s at all. You know, not too many teams are above 40% shooting. I mean, I'm sorry, above 45% shooting. Most teams that are above that are not the elite teams. The best mid-range shooting teams are the Phoenix Suns. They have one of the worst records. Then we obviously got Memphis Grizzlies, who was a play-in team. OKC Thunder obviously had the best record in the league. They're in the top 3 in mid-range shooting. We got the Milwaukee Bucks, who are a good team this year. The Knicks were a good team. The Pacers were a good team. The Clippers were a good team. The Sacramento Kings and the Miami Heat round off the top 10. So I don't know how much that affects winning. But again, if we talk about how good you are at getting to the basket and finishing at the basket, if we look here at OKC, OKC is one of the best teams at getting to the rim as well. When we're talking about getting to the basket, the New York Knicks are up there. The Denver Nuggets are definitely one of the best teams at taking shots at the rim. But we're talking about the New York Knicks, right? They shoot it at 66% at the rim. Where I just saw OKC somewhere here taking shots at the rim. So when we're talking about teams who take the mid-range, I guess it's still a part of the game. It's still an important aspect of the game. But when we're talking about the players who take the mid-range, you guys don't really praise them. Because again, if we even go back to where Steve Nash was playing, let's go back to 2007 and look at the mid-range shooters of that era, right? Let's take a look at that there. And let's also do that for the NBA teams, right? Let's look in the 2000s. So as we can see in today's NBA, about, teams take about 10 mid-range shots per game, right? But let's go back to 2007. Let's just go back almost 20 years. And let's see how the mid-range shot was back when Steve Nash talked about how there was only 2 big men and most of them couldn't even shoot outside of 15 feet. If we look at the guys who shot the most mid-range shots back in 2007, guys like Tracy McGrady was number 1 at 9.9, shooting 43.3%. Kobe Bryant was right behind him at 9.8, shooting 43.9%. Kevin Garnett was taking 9 mid-range shots at 44.6%. Dirk Nowitzki was shooting 9 mid-range shots at 49.6%. Carmelo Anthony was taking about 8 mid-range shots per game, shooting them at 37%. Dwayne Wade was shooting them at 38%, with taking 8 mid-range shots per game. Allen Iverson was shooting 8 shots per game at 40%. And then we got Jermaine O'Neal to round off the guys who shot at least 8 mid-range shots per game, shooting them at 37%. But still, if we go down, we see a lot of guys like Richard Hamilton, even Ben Gordon, Chris Bosh. LeBron James was taking 7.5 mid-range shots, shooting them about 35% from the field. Then we have other guys here that we can see that was shooting above 7. And this is where obviously they like to say LeBron James wasn't shooting good, because back in 2007, LeBron James was obviously not shooting well from mid-range. He was shooting 35%, but that was just a tid less worse than what Carmelo Anthony was shooting in that same year. But people don't say Carmelo Anthony is a bad mid-range shooter. But again, if we look at all the guys here and how they finish at the rim, we can see a lot of these guys are not great at finishing at the rim. Dwayne Wade is obviously a great guy who can get to the rim, finish at the rim. Kobe Bryant's about league average. KG, Carmelo, Dwayne Wade, they're just above league average. But again, we get to LeBron James, he's at 70%. So LeBron James is elite at getting to the rim. So his mid-range was a part of his game, his effectiveness. He wasn't as elite at shooting it, but he was still good enough so that he could take advantage of getting to the basket. which LeBron James is the best in NBA history at going downhill and getting to the basket without a doubt. But as we can see, back in his days, there wasn't too many guys who could shoot as good as LeBron James at the rim, but include their mid-range game involved in that. So LeBron James' ability to get to the rim was definitely a key. But again, if we're looking back at 2007, we can see the guys who were shooting a lot of mid-range were using it. It was a weapon in 2007. It really was. And if we go to the teams, obviously the team that took the most mid-range shots in 2007 was the Minnesota Timberwolves, taking 34 per game. Again, ladies and gentlemen, we got 6 different teams that took at least 30 mid-range jump shots in 2007 for the NBA season. And obviously the teams that shot them the best, that took them over 30%, who took over 30 per game, was the Chicago Bulls. They shot it at 42%. So again, they're shooting just a little bit above league average, which about that time was about 38, 39% from mid-range, right? So you don't have elite mid-range shooting, right? As far as team-wise, in the 2007s, because the best team was 43% with the Dallas Mavericks. We showed how teams in today's NBA, there were several teams who shoot above 43% from mid-range, but they just don't take as much. So the volume is definitely different. But again, these teams are not as good at finishing at the rim or getting to the basket like today's NBA players are. As we can see, these teams that were taking a lot of mid-range jump shots were not elite at finishing and getting to the basket, which is common because even if we take it back to 1997 when they first started keeping a track of this, and we look at the teams that take the most mid-range and how good they were at getting to the basket, they really were not. The Chicago Bulls, 55% at the basket. That's not elite. So Sacramento Kings, 54% at the basket. Denver Nuggets, 53% at the basket. These teams are not elite at getting at the basket. But they shot a lot of mid-range. The Chicago Bulls took 41 mid-range shots per game in 1997, shooting at a 45% clip. That's elite. We know Michael Jordan and both Scottie Pippen were shooting at good elite levels in the 1997 season. Then we have let's see here. We have the Sacramento Kings were shooting 36 shots per game at 40%. Denver Nuggets, 36 shots per game at 39%. Phoenix, 36 shots per game at 39%. Again, the most elite mid-range shooting team in 1997 season was better than the 2007 season. We had the Charlotte Hornets shooting at 51% from mid-range. They had some mid-range assassins like, again, Glenn Rice. Then you had guys like Boston Celtics who were shooting 47.5% from mid-range, taking about 24 mid-range shots per game. Then the Chicago Bulls were third at 45%. The Utah Jazz was 43%. The Milwaukee Bucks was at 42%. The Pistons was at 41%. So again, you had some teams here shooting at elite level, but again, these teams were not elite at finishing at the rim. Again, if we go to 2025's NBA season and the teams that shot the most mid-range or shot the best from mid-range, we can see they were elite at the rim. Okay, let's look at it here. The Phoenix Suns, 71% at the rim. The next team, the Memphis Grizzlies, 68%. OKC, 68%. Milwaukee, 69%. New York, 66%. Pacers, 68%. Clippers, 67%. So again, the aspect of why the mid-range is so important in today's game is because teams are so elite at getting to the rim, which forces teams to play defense and prevent you from getting to the rim as much as you want to. So you still have to have the mid-range game plus the three-point game to help space the floor so that you can actually try to get to the basket. So this is why the mid-range game is still important in today's NBA and still being used. Again, I don't know how much importance is it in the total aspect of the game, but it still is important for the guys that we all love to watch, the Luka Doncic's, the LeBron James. Tonight, we know there's a ball game where the Knicks are playing, right? We know we're going to be watching guys like Jalen Brunson take advantage of the mid-range. We're going to watch guys like Jaylen Brown take advantage of the mid-range, right? We're going to watch guys like Porzingis take advantage of the mid-range, right? Because these guys are elite at getting to the basket and finishing, and you can't let them do that. So they're going to take advantage and exploit you with the mid-range game. It's a real simple thing when we're talking about that in today's NBA. And again, LeBron James did state that the NBA does use the mid-range, and it is very important in today's NBA. Let's go ahead and play that clip for you so that you guys can see how LeBron James talk about how the mid-range game is still important.
Like you said, if it's OKC and Shai's getting Shay's getting blitzed in the pick and roll, and you're hitting Jalen Williams in the pocket, or you hit Alex Caruso in the pocket, you're at the mercy. You know,
you're scrambling.
If you're playing Boston and you're doubling Jason Tatum and you're hitting Drew Holiday in the pocket, now this guy is.
It's a point guard.
He's a point guard making 4-on-3 reads, things he's been doing his whole career.
100%.
So it's like it is very key, and the mid ranges I think is very, very key to the success of great teams.
For sure. There's another element of it that I think is really important also to understand is like the math is the math. Like I 100% agree that the mid-range shot is low value. Like I said, like let's call it like just a concept, but like if only 14 in the teens out of 400 something players are efficient versus league average per possession, it's not a high value shot. Okay.
So again, you heard them speak on it. You heard them break it down. Again, LeBron said it. It's a key factor, but the way they talked about the mid-range game was in the aspect of the creator, the guy who has the ball in his hand, the guy that's your main scorer, your main facilitator, the guy that gets your offense going. So obviously the mid-range is very important. We're breaking down all of this, and the Zesty Jeffries should be running with this. This is an episode from the Mind the Game that they should be watching. They love to pay attention to LeBron James in so many different ways, but here it is. Here's LeBron James giving them so many jewels that they can utilize in the GOAT debate and just in basketball discourse in general. And having LeBron James talk about the mid-range game with Steve Nash was a great episode. So shout out to them. I definitely do appreciate watching that episode. Again, we here breaking down the mid-range game and LeBron James and them saying, hey, the mid-range game is still an important aspect in today's NBA. This is the Friday Night Exposure with the Exposer. I'm doing this live, direct for you guys. You know what I do best. And you guys know that all you got to do is hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that ring notification so that you know about Go James Kingdom and what we're doing here. And like I always tell you guys, man, this is the best place to talk the game of basketball, man. It's where basketball lives forever. So make sure you check out the Go James Kingdom membership. Don't be afraid to check it out because we're going to continue to grow with the perks and different things that are going on. Again, we already told you, if you are part of the King's Guard membership, you get access to the Sunday show and be a part of the show from the beginning as we do send the link out to all those who are part of the King's Guard and who have an opportunity to show up on a Sunday afternoon. But again, it is the Friday night and we're having fun. So hopefully you're having a great Friday night. You're at home relaxing, sipping wine, enjoying yourself, just like I am here, breaking down the game of basketball. Again, we were discussing the mid-range game. And the mid-range game is so important in basketball. And to Zesty Jeffries, and LeBron gave you a reason why. All right, so let's continue to break down some more of this. Let's go to let's see here. Let's go to 1998, right? Let's go to 1998, right? Let's go to the next year that Michael Jordan was an elite mid-range shooter, because you guys love to bring up Michael Jordan's elite mid-range shooter, and you guys really don't know. So in 1998, Jordan took 13 mid-range shots, but shot a little bit worse than what he did the year prior. He shot about 43% from mid-range in 1993. He was a little bit better at the rim, just about league average, about 61.5%. You had Glenn Robinson, Karl Malone, Tom Gugliotta, Latrell Sprewell. All these guys were top in mid-range shooting, taking about 9 or more. Kevin Garnett starting to make an appearance in the 1998 season. Sam Cassell, Michael Finley, Ron Mercer, Terrell Brandon, Allen Houston, Grant Hill. And again, now Grant Hill is shooting a little bit worse this year. He's shooting about 35% from mid-range. But again, a lot of these guys are shooting it very well. But again, if we look at all these guys, and if they're elite at shooting at the rim, you don't have too many guys doing that. You have Michael Finley there. You have Terrell Brandon, which Terrell Brandon should be, because Terrell Brandon was one of those guys that was a high flyer. And I'm not to say a high flyer. I'm confusing him with Robert Pack. But I do remember Terrell Brandon as being a guy that was very elusive, very quick, and had a good first step and get to the basket very well. We did know Michael Finley as being somebody who can high rise and get above the rim. Grant Hill, obviously, we know can finish well with the best of the best. But again, these were all the mid-range shooters of that era. And the guys who made the most, again, was Michael Jordan. But not too many of these guys were shooting above 45% from mid-range. The first guy that I see here is Sam Mitchell. Shout out to Sam Mitchell, the coach and the sports analyst on NBA.com. Oh, my bad. We got Patrick Ewing. They were talking about Patrick Ewing the other night on FYF Sports Debate. He shot 47% from mid-range. Well, Tom Gugliotta and Karl Malone shot above 45%. So, again, that was the 1998 mid-range shooters, are the best shooters then. But let's go to the 1998 NBA season as far as the teams go, and let's see which teams were the best mid-range shooting teams in 1998. So, all right, so the best team by efficiency was the Utah Jazz. The Minnesota Timberwolves were right behind. But again, the best mid-range shooting team in 1998 was 43%. That's just, again, above league average. That's just about good. That's just good. So there's not an elite mid-range shooting teams. The Golden State Warriors took the most with 37. Again, there's a bunch of teams who took at least 30 or more. At least a dozen teams took at least 30 mid-range shots. But again, if we look at how good they were at the basket, these teams were not elite at the basket. So like Steve Nash was breaking it down earlier, he was describing how the role player's job was to utilize the mid-range. That it was a role player's thing. It wasn't really something for your best players. Your best players, you wanted them to get to the basket. You wanted them to exploit that. And the mid-range was for the role players and other guys. And obviously it became a weapon for guys who can get to the basket, because then obviously it was hard to stop. But again, that was one-on-one basketball. 1998 basketball was one-on-one, so you really didn't have to worry about being too much of a ball facilitator or a playmaker when you were a guy who was a downhill guy. Because once you went downhill, it was just you and the big man. So if you can get over the big man, and that's why people always say that it was the big man era. Because once you got past your primary defender, it was you and the big man. So obviously people gave the big man the advantage back then, because there weren't too many guys back then who were great at finishing at the rim. Today's NBA is the same thing. You don't just meet the big man, you're meeting another defender. I beat one defender, I'm meeting another defender. I'm not even at the paint yet, and I gotta get past two defenders before I can even get to the paint. That's the difference between today's NBA and back then. We're talking about 1998, right? So that was today's NBA. But let's move on to the 2010s. Let's go to 2017 NBA season, and let's see how the mid-range was used with the teams in 2017. So in 2017, the team that took the most mid-range shots were the New York Knicks at 25 per game. They were shooting at about 42.5%. The best mid-range shooting team in 2017 was the Golden State Warriors, shooting at 44%. That makes sense, having Kevin Durant and Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson on that team, not to mention Sean Livingston helping them out there. But again, these teams are elite at finishing at the rim. Golden State finishes at the rim at a 67% clip. The Clippers are at 64. All these teams are shooting above 60%. Then you get the Portland Trailblazers and the Knicks, who shoot a little bit below 50%. Below 60% at the rim. But majority of these teams are shooting above 60%. The Cavaliers with LeBron, one of the best mid-range shooting teams, and also one of the best teams at finishing at the rim. But again, the teams who took the most mid-range shots, they were just about league average at mid-range shooting, or just above league average, just about good. They were not elite mid-range shooting teams. So again, I don't know how much the mid-range was effective. Obviously, we know Golden State of 2017 is considered the greatest team of all time. They were definitely assassins at using the mid-range, and they were efficient at it for sure, but they didn't take the most in the league. They only took 17 per game in 2017. So again, the mid-range definitely dwindled from teams taking over 30 per game back in 1997 to where now we have teams barely taking 10 per game in 2025. So how important is the mid-range shot in a total aspect? I don't see how it's that important in the overall scheme. And the way LeBron James just described it, I do see that as important as the way Steve Nash described it, as it being important for the creator of your team, which in today's NBA is really the main engine. It's no longer where you use several pieces to create your offense. Today's NBA, you got guys, again, if we're looking at teams like the Knicks who are in the playoffs, teams like the Pacers who moved on, teams like the Warriors, teams like who's the other team that had moved on there? We still waiting to find out. But all these other teams that are in the playoffs that we're talking about, the OKCs, the Denvers, and all these other teams that were in the playoffs, these teams, right, their main ball facilitator is really their best player, right? We're talking about the Joker, the SGAs, the Jalen Brunsons, the Jason Tatums, the Anthony Edwards, the Tyrese Halliburtons, right? These are the guys that are the best playmakers on their teams, right? Even in Cleveland, we had Donovan Mitchell. He's really the best playmaker. He's the guy that sets everything in motion. Back in the days, right? 25 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 1900s, the guys who set the pace for your offense and everything was your ball facilitator, your playmaker, was your point guard. That's what you had a point guard for. But in today's NBA, your point guard doesn't have to be that guy. You can utilize anybody who has the talents of ball handling, shot creation, and playmaking. And that's what you have with all these players that we were discussing tonight, that play in today's NBA, that utilize the mid-range game. The guys like the guys like the Jokers, the guys like the SGAs, the Lucas, the LeBrons, even the guys like the Embiids and the Giannis's, they utilize the mid-range because they're effective 3-level scorers. They're great at scoring. They're great at getting to the basket. They're great at shooting the three-pointer. They're great at shooting the mid-range. They're elite 3-level scorers, which you don't know nothing about because the 1900s basketball didn't have no 3-level scorers, man. They just didn't have it. They just didn't have it at all. So how important is the mid-range in today's NBA? As LeBron James said, it's still important. Teams still use it. Players still use it. It's an obvious, no-brainer that teams use it. It is the least efficient shot in basketball. So obviously, you don't want to be the guy that takes it all the time if you're not the main guy, because it's not effective for you that way. Your team's not going to win basketball if you got your average guy taking a bunch of mid-range shots. You don't want, like it was in the 90s where you had guys like a Lloyd Voigt taking a bunch of mid-range jump shots. Like, you don't want that. Like, again, like I said, if we go back to the guys who are shooting mid-range shots back in 1998, again, you don't want a Tom Gugliotta taking 9 mid-range shots. This guy's a role player. He's not. No, take the three-pointer. Take a step back, shoot. We want you taking 9 3-pointers. All right? We don't want Sam Cassell taking mid-range shots. Sam Cassell is not a playmaker like that. All right? KG, I saw a video recently where somebody said that KG is the worst at taking 22-foot mid-range in NBA history. Like he was known. Like there was a whole compiled list of footage of showing this man taking a bunch of. I mean, literally, he was just right in front of the 3-point line, shooting them and making. But again, there's a lot of these guys that you don't want taking your mid-range shots that are just. Again, it worked back in this era. Look, I'm looking at Ray Allen. Ray Allen shoots at 40.5% from mid-range. No one would ever say Ray Allen is a horrible mid-range shooter. That's mid-range, ladies and gentlemen. That is average at its best. Chris Webber shot 36.9. I mean, again, we can continue to go to this. Let's go to 2000, all right? Because I don't want to go to the 1999 season. It was a lockout season. Let's go to 2000 and NBA season and look at the best mid-range shooters in the NBA at this time. Michael Jordan is gone. Here we go. We got Vince Carter. Look at Allen Iverson shooting 36% from the mid-range in 2000 season, right? No one says Allen Iverson can't shoot. But again, Allen Iverson gets to the basket. He makes it at 66% when he gets to the basket. So he's just using the mid-range, taking about 10 mid-range shots per game. Vince Carter shooting about 40% from mid-range, right? But again, he gets to the rim at an elite level, 64.5%, right? Then Glenn Robinson was another mid-range assassin. He wasn't too good at getting to the rim. We could tell Glenn Robinson just loved the mid-range. Karl Malone is another guy who shot a lot of mid-range shots. Here we go, Isaiah Ryder, another downhill guy. Using the mid-range, but shooting at an average clip. We know Kevin Garnett loved the mid-range. He was elite at the rim and elite at mid-range. Chris Webber shoots the mid-range at a 41% clip. That's just above league average. And we got Michael Finley again, Terrell Brandon, Grant Hill. Again, all these guys are taking at least 9 per game. Allen Houston was shooting at 50%. That is elite. Taking 9 per game, shooting at 50%. So again, a lot of these guys are not great at finishing at the rim unless they're big men, right? So even guys like Latrell Sprewell, who's shooting less than 60% at the rim, these guys were not great at finishing at the rim. But again, the mid-range was definitely a shot that was utilized everybody back then. Because, again, you wasn't going to take the three-pointer. The three-pointer was a desperate shot, a last resort shot. Right? Let's go a little bit further down. Let's go to 2000. Let's go to skip 2001, 2002. Let's go to 2003. Let's skip that. Let's go to 2003. This is just arbitrarily. I'm just picking years, ladies and gentlemen. I do not know the information that we're about to find. But we know Michael Jordan was in the league. And what? Michael Jordan was shooting 13 mid-range shots at 43%. All right? So that's just at good. Jordan was a good mid-range shot. But again, Jordan at the rim was below average. We already know Jordan was horrible at shooting threes. He shot the three-pointer at below 30% in this NBA season. But the next guy shooting mid-range was Chris Webber. He shot it at 41%. Again, that's just above average, just about good, just a little bit under being a good guy. Kobe Bryant was right behind him at 41%. Allen Iverson, again, shooting 38.7%. Ladies and gentlemen, that is average from mid-range. This year, he wasn't that good at finishing at the rim. Tracy McGrady shot 43% from mid-range. That's just about good. But he wasn't elite at the rim. He wasn't good at finishing at the rim. No wonder why he likes the 1-2 pull-up. Because he can't dribble past two dribbles. That's the same thing with Jordan. Jordan couldn't go left past two dribbles. If he did, he had to pick up his dribble. Right? Guys who can get look at Allen Houston. Allen Houston finishes at the rim at less than 40%, ladies and gentlemen, less than 38%. That's horrible. No wonder why you sitting around here taking 10 shots at mid-range, because you can't get to the rim. So we're going to let you shoot all these mid-range shots. That's why the mid-range was so elite for guys like this, because they couldn't do nothing else. They can't finish at the rim. Right? You get a guy like Vince Carter, again, they become average. You don't find elite mid-range shooters in this era that is good at finishing at the rim. And that's just how it goes. And you don't find that until, like I said, we get later on into the NBA seasons. If we get to 2008, we went over 2007 as well for mid-range shooting for players, right? Tracy McGrady took the most, again, at 43%. But he shot less than 54% at the basket. Again, he was not elite. Okay, no wonder why you needed a 1-2 dribble there, Tracy. You couldn't really get to the basket. You needed to pick up your dribble, right? Dwayne Wade shot less than 38% from mid-range. That's just below mid-range average, but he was elite at getting to the rim and finishing, 65%, right? And you got Dirk Nowitzki, was an elite mid-range shooter, but he wasn't that good at finishing at the rim. Kobe Bryant was above average at shooting at the rim, so you give Kobe Bryant some props there. But Kobe Bryant shot average from mid-range this season, right? Carmelo Anthony was good at finishing at the rim. He was good at shooting mid-range. Right, here you go. Rip Hamilton, another mid-range assassin, right? Great mid-range, but he wasn't good at finishing at the rim. This is Kevin Durant's first year in the league. He wasn't great at finishing at the rim. He wasn't really that great at mid-range, but he was just figuring himself out. But these were all the guys who took the most mid-range shots in the 2008 NBA season. Again, none of these guys were really elite mid-range shooters. The guys who were most elite at it were Dirk Nowitzki, Kevin Garnett, Richard Hamilton, David West. To be elite, I'm going 45 and above, ladies and gentlemen, shooting 45% or better. But again, they were not elite at finishing at the rim. Guys who are elite at finishing at the rim, again, to be elite at shooting at the rim, 65 or better, right? Are good at least you want to say they were good at it. Guys who were doing that, they were average or just good at mid-range. But then when we get later on into the NBA, let's go to the 2015 season, just 10 years ago, and we look at the players. Obviously, they're going to be taking less mid-range as we get further and further into the 2000s and into modern basketball. We still had LaMarcus Aldridge, which was still a mid-range assassin in this era, but shooting it at a 41% clip, ladies and gentlemen. That's just above league average. He was great at finishing at the rim because, again, he is a big man. Then we have Carmelo Anthony. He's not too great at finishing at the rim, shoot just about good at mid-range. Kobe Bryant shot 37% from mid-range in 2015 and wasn't good at finishing at the rim. But again, this is the end of Kobe Bryant's career. DeMar DeRozan, he was known as a mid-range assassin. He was shooting 36% this year in mid-range. This is early in DeMar DeRozan's career. And then we got Anthony Davis taking mid-range jump shots, right? Chris Bosh, everybody knows Chris Bosh was a mid-range assassin. That's where he worked his magic. But again, if we go to the guys who were elite at finishing at the rim, who were, again, perimeter players, guys like Dwayne Wade, shooting like 67% at the rim, but shoot 40% from mid-range, right? Blake Griffin is not known for being a great shooter, but he was shooting 40% from mid-range. Westbrook, shooting 37% from mid-range, wasn't too great at the rim. This is 2015 Westbrook here. So again, we don't have too many guys who are complete elite at the mid-range here. We have a few guys who shot above 45%. Chris Bosh shot above 45%. Dirk Nowitzki, Chris Paul, who we all know Chris Paul was an elite mid-range shooter. David West, Vujicic shot above 46% from mid-range. So again, ladies and gentlemen, the mid-range shot, as much as the Zesty Jeffries love to praise the mid-range shot, it's really not a shot that's, again, worth praising. I'm just going to say it. It's just not worth praising of any kind. And when we break down the game the way we break it down, it's very simple. You know, the best basketball players in today's NBA are best at getting to the basket. And they utilize the mid-range as a part of their weapon and as a part of to counteract anything the defense is doing. Because, again, the defense is doing their best to prevent you from getting to the basket. Because, again, if the analytics says to take the shot at the three-point shot or take the shot at the rim, then the defensive analytics should say prevent the basket shot and prevent the three-point shot. So that leaves you nothing left with the mid-range. That's what the elite three-level scoring is about. And LeBron breaks it down when he talks about it here with the three-level scoring.
The one thing about the creators, we're going to hit all three levels. And in order to be able to hit all three levels, it gives your teammates even more opportunities to do what they are out there to do. You know, by either extending the defense to the three-point. Okay, we're not going to, you're shooting 10 or 12 threes a game. Well, now we're going to extend our defense. We're not going to allow you to shoot the threes. But we're also going to protect the rim. But the creators in our game have always worked on mid-ranges, either if it's mid-range pull-ups, mid-range floaters, you know, turning drives into back downs, you know, to be in the mid-range. Like, you know, for me, in
even
particular,
mid-range post-ups.
Even mid-range post-ups. You know, you get a lot of guys in, you know, your former teammate Dirk mastered the nail ISO, you know, and at the time and when Dirk was in his prime and doing his thing, it was, I can get all the way to the rim. I can back you down from here, or I can face you up and shoot. No dribbles, use all my footwork, use all my pivots, and I'm gonna keep the defense so at bay and off balance that it's always gonna work to the benefit of our team. And that's what it is. I think, you know, like you said, the common fan will say there's no mid-range in the NBA anymore. It's just fast breaks, layups, threes, and free throws. But it's absolutely not true.
So, you know, that's LeBron breaking it down so that you guys can understand the game. Again, you know, the GOAT does a good job, man. Shout out to LeBron James and Mind the Game. That's just a great podcast. I like tuning into that. I like how they break the game down. They really do help you understand the game a lot better. It's definitely fun learning the game of basketball. Again, this is why, you know, we always tell you guys your eye test don't matter, because most of you guys' eye test is predicated when you were a child and you had no clue on how the game worked, and you just run around here trying to speak about the nostalgia of the 90s and how you think the game was better then. And again, you didn't understand the game, because here it is, I'm 43 years old and still learning, right? So I've been watching the game for over 30 years of my life, and I'm still learning the game of basketball at this age and expanding my mind state on how the game should be played. But I do understand what they mean about how the mid-range game is important today for the creators, not for the role players. It is an inefficient shot. You don't want your role players taking that shot. You want you don't want your what they call the creators taking that shot, but you don't limit your creators. You let them do what they do best. As Steve Nash explained, you don't really hinder them from using that shot. There's no way you just tell them, don't take that shot. You allow them to find their rhythm using that shot. You let them use that shot to exploit the defense. You let them use that shot so that they can be as most effective and most productive as a player as they can be. And that's the key to all of this, is that at the end of the day, all these players are trying to find the best way to be productive, to be impactful, and to help their team win. And you do that, you know, basically by, like I said, by being a three-level scorer. That's just how that works. You just got to be a three-level scorer. And those guys are elite three-level scorers. We talk about it. LeBron James, All these guys in today's NBA are elite, the 3-level scorers, man, without a doubt, man. Like it really, it really is just that simple. It really is. 3-level scoring is just that simple. They're elite at it, really elite at it. But I'm doing this Friday night exposure for you guys on a Friday night. I am going live for you guys here. This is a special stream. I know you guys are all upset and wondering where's the link, blah, blah, blah. There's no link for you tonight, ladies and gentlemen. This is just going to be me talking to you this way, as I am doing a Friday night exposure for you guys, and trying to just give you guys the best content that's available here. But at the end of the day, what we do here in GOAT James Kingdom is real basketball talk. We don't do the narrative things. We don't do the gossip talk. That is not what we're interested in. We're nowhere near those other channels that you hear other people spew nonsense about. What we do here in GOAT James Kingdom is very unique, and we continue to grow our content by doing that. And we get a lot of detractors. We get a lot of people who love to hate on us. A lot of people who say, hey Johnny, you a troll. Hey Johnny, you a hater. You can't. They always talk about how I hate Michael Jordan and all this other nonsense. It's really silliness. You know what I'm saying? And I really don't get it. It really doesn't make no sense to me, because again, a lot of you guys don't never go at the guys who spend most of their time hating on LeBron James. We know there's plenty of channels out here that go out here saying a lot of bull crap about LeBron. They speak negatively about him. And that's why GOAT James Kingdom exists. Because as I told you guys, we are the Clutch Sports Hitmen. And we come out every Sunday to talk the game of basketball. And it is an open panel show. The Sunday shows was made for Brandon and I to give people access to talk to us, because Brandon and I are avid LeBron fans. And all we do is post about LeBron James. And his greatness when we talk about the game of basketball. Outside of my Miami Heat, that's all I post. But I don't really post about my Miami Heat too much, unless I'm talking to my Miami Heat fans. So when I'm talking basketball, it's usually the GOAT conversation. It is the number one conversation in basketball. So why hide from it? We didn't hide from it. We created a program on Sunday afternoons. You can come and talk to us. We go live every Sunday noon Eastern time right here on the GOAT James Kingdom channel. So y'all make sure to subscribe to our channel and make sure you hit that ring notification, because it'll tell you, hey, GOAT James Kingdom is live. But you should already know every Sunday noon Eastern time is where we do our thing. And we get a lot of people who come in and hate on us. And at first it was really slow. So we built a good following. We got a good group of guys that are on the panel with us. Shout out to Travis, shout out to Craig, shout out to John, who helped Brandon and I do every Sunday show. But I was like, you know what? I need my own show, because I need to get into some of these people, because you guys really be looking for me on a Sunday afternoon, when a Friday night exposure is really where you can find me. Like, this is where I'm at. And it's gotten to the point to where I had to deal with a lot of you zesty Jeffries, where it was just me versus 100 people, right? And again, y'all are always safe in the comments. We always tell y'all that, safe in the comments. Nothing in the comments ever bothers me besides spamming, right? But now I done grown. I done grown up. I done put myself in a better position. And now the Friday night exposure is going to be a more exclusive show for all of my fans and all of the fans that love LeBron James, what we do here in GOAT James Kingdom. And we know we have a bunch of detractors. I know we got a lot of idiots, guys like Willie, guys like Wall Street Brandon, who love to talk reckless. We know we have the motel room, who love to talk reckless about what goes on here in GOAT James Kingdom, and obviously what goes on with FYF Sports Debate. But we're past that now. We're no longer going to get petty with these dudes, because you guys always tell me how reckless I am and how wild I am and all this other stuff. But again, I have to deal with guys like a Brandon Katz. I got to deal with guys like the motel room. I got to deal with guys like Willie on a consistent basis. These are the guys that are always trying to argue with LeBron fans. They're always trying to come at us because we just want to talk the game of basketball. And they say that I cut them off and I don't let them speak and I act crazy with them. But again, that's not my fault, because again, I don't tolerate disrespect. Even when Brandon was on other people's platforms, we see him do it on FYF, even on PC with Chilltown. Again, everybody knows Chilltown is one of the most cool and collective individuals, and still Brandon found his way over there, and watch what Chilltown had to do to him, because again, he's just a reckless human being.
I want to get my take up and go.
Keep going.
I won't interrupt you when you go. Let me get my take up. Okay, here's the two things with Nikola Jokic. Number one, he only scores only scores at an elite level against undersized or shit centers. Jokic
That's
against
not true. Get him out of here.
It's right. No, Hira. No, Jokic against Zubac barely shot 50% from the field. Jokic against Gobert barely shot 50%.
One second, Brandon. Fuck out of here with this guy.
Chill. Are we not gonna let this brother get his whole
This guy's falling apart.
This guy, man, he's a fucking idiot, yo. This guy's an idiot. Yo. He is an idiot.
This is the Jokic dick suckers falling apart when they get confronted with facts. So here are the facts. Here are the facts.
Who didn't say anything last night. No, I'm not going to let you talk.
I'm going to get my take up.
I don't care.
When Jokic played Zubac,
you know that Anthony Edwards went 6 for 22 last year? 6 for 22 in Game 7. He didn't even bring that up. He didn't bring that up. And you know why he didn't bring that up? He didn't bring that up because he's so one-sided about Joker. This dude is a fucking idiot, man. Get this dude out of here. He only gets busy against undersized centers. He got busy against the defensive player of the year last year. What are you talking about? He got busy against the defensive player of the year last year. What are you talking about? Right. And on top of that, he got busy against Anthony Davis. What are you talking about? Get this dude out of here. Get out of here, man.
So as you can see, clearly, you guys can clearly see and hear that Brandon goes everywhere with his nonsense and thinks that he's dropping basketball knowledge. Like he's not doing nothing of the sort. It's hilarious, ladies and gentlemen. It's completely hilarious. I don't know what to tell you. When I saw that, I couldn't wait to clip it. I was supposed to use it on Sunday's show, but got distracted as we moved on talking about other things, and we were having fun with the chat GPT stuff going on here. But again, here at Go James Kingdom, we open up the panel, let people speak. But they think it is a form for them to be disrespectful. For one, that's the one thing I don't tolerate is disrespect. Then two, to just say the most asinine things and just to be completely disruptive, right? And then on top of being disruptive, they want to challenge you and challenge your take just for the sake of challenge your take. And then what they'll do is they'll challenge your take on a basis on something that you never really even said, right? So, I thought that was just so funny that Wall Street Brandon was on Chilltown's. Chilltown is one of the most calm, collective individuals. He lets people speak, and here it is. You got cut off and shut up because you just don't know how to talk and you just don't know how to speak with people. But here at Go James Kingdom, we don't really do that here. I know I always make joke and make fun of people. Again, I haven't put somebody in the dugout for a while. It's been a minute since anybody's been in the dugout, right? I haven't put nobody in the dugout in a while because I know it's embarrassing to get put in the dugout. We all know that y'all are the MJ police, though. We do know that. Y'all out here doing stuff and being reckless and upset with me because of the things that I do. It's not my fault. Y'all got to stop fucking with me and Go James Kingdom.
Now, did you get a look at the man who assaulted you?
I did.
Okay, can I get a description?
Yeah, he was probably around 5'9", 5'10".
Now, how about identifying characteristics? Any marks, piercings?
He may have had a tattoo.
He may have had a tattoo? Did have a tattoo? Which one was it?
I don't know. It all happened so fast.
You know what? It's fine. I have a preliminary sketch here. Is this the man who assaulted you?
I mean, you guys, again, like I said, man, you guys take things to heart. And it's all because, again, Michael Jordan, somehow Michael Jordan makes you guys feel good about life. I don't know what it is about Michael Jordan and your life that you need him to feel good about. So you need to kind of press us LeBron fans. But we don't stress you guys, man, because, again, we're here doing our best thing. And to be honest with you, like I said, I done put myself in a luxury spot, man. This is what the Friday Night Exposure is going to be about from here on out. We're getting close to the 100th episode of the Friday Night Exposure with the Exposer. Once I reach this 100 episode, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be in full bliss. This will be the luxury room for all LeBron fans, all true NBA fans. You'll be able to come on a Friday night with me here. We'll talk the game of basketball like true fans. You get to open up about your true experience of the game and what you know, and we'll have so much fun this summer. I'm definitely going to be doing the finals streaming. I'm going to be doing the games this year as well. As you guys know, I love to do that. I did that last year, and I can't wait to see who's going to be in the finals. As I do believe it will be Minnesota and Indiana in the NBA finals. As crazy as it sounds, but I do believe that will be the case. But again, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, the Friday Night Exposure is never going nowhere. I'm going to continue to drop knowledge and do what I do best. Shout out to Lamont and everybody on FYF, because here in Go James Kingdom, it is fuck your opinions, and FYF, it is fuck your feelings. And if any of you guys want any smoke, then you know where to find me right here in GOAT James Kingdom.
Say, bro. I'm the type of nigga stand on business, nigga. One man arm against 50, nigga.
You think your shit is that bad, man? You got that much juice? Goddamn right. Don't nobody fuck with me.
That's the truth. That is the damn truth. That is the truth of all truth and matters when it comes down to it. Here in GOAT James Kingdom, we shut it down. And what I do best here in GOAT James Kingdom is debate Zesty Jeffries. And what we also do here in GOAT James Kingdom is put Zesty Jeffries to their final burial spot. So here in GOAT James Kingdom, we have a place called the Zesty Jeffries Cemetery. If you haven't heard of it, ladies and gentlemen, we'll show you exactly what a Zesty Jeffries Cemetery looks like.
Welcome to Zesty Jeffries Cemetery, where we have identified, marked, and cataloged all Zesty Jeffries for their final resting spot. No longer will you hear Zesty Jeffrey logic like 6-0 and the toughest era ever. This is where all of that ends, right here at Zesty Jeffrey Cemetery. Subscribe to the GOAT James Kingdom channel and also check out the GOAT James Kingdom membership.
Yep, ladies and gentlemen. So before I end up ending tonight's program, so you guys can enjoy the rest of your Friday night and have fun on a Friday night. Again, today's show was about how LeBron James and Steve Nash had a show about the mid-range game and how the mid-range game is still important in today's NBA and how it's used in today's NBA. They broke it down in so many different aspects and so many different great, interesting ways. So I loved it. Again, LeBron James stated the mid-range game is very key to success of great teams, and he believes so. And again, I don't think it's that important, but LeBron James is out here making statements that us LeBron fans are not going to be too pleased with. Just like when Michael Jordan is going to be making statements next year on NBC that most of his fans are not going to be too pleased with. But again, they talked about how the mid-range game is important, how the guys could just utilize it in so many different ways. Again, the mid-range game has not really gone anywhere. So, you know, with that being said, you know, we discussed how the mid-range game was being used in today's NBA. We talked how it was used, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. There's no information about mid-range shooting prior to 1997, and that's a sad, unfortunate thing for us NBA fans, because I would love to have the records of guys like Adrian Dantley, guys like an Alex English, guys like a Bernard King, right? I would love to have the numbers of guys like Chris Mullins and Mitch Richmond, right? And again, all these guys that exploited the mid-range game: Gail Goodrich, Sam Jones, Jerry West, Oscar Robinson. So many guys, man, who utilized the mid-range game. Larry Bird, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar with the hook shot. How many of those hook shots he took from mid-range, we don't even know. So many players that we can go back and look at to see how good their mid-range was. We just don't have the data for it. The league never kept a track of it. It would never be an accurate information no matter what source we get it from, because they just didn't have the right numbers. And again, we don't have access to all of the NBA games as well. So it's sad that we only could get it from 1997. But again, there are some numbers here that people are throwing around, like SGA shooting 60% from mid-range. I don't know where they're getting that from. Him taking somewhere between 10 to 15 shots per game from mid-range. Don't know where y'all are getting that from. But again, we talked about how y'all only respect the guys who shoot mid-range, who are good at finishing, or guys who you think are aesthetically pleasing at watching the game of basketball. You guys like to use their mid-range as a way to say that they're elite and complete players. You guys also like to ignore LeBron James' ability to shoot the three-pointer at above league average ability, and the fact that he's actually a good three-point shooter. So that shows how his ability to get to the rim and three-point shooting, and including his average mid-range ability, makes him basically the most elite scorer of all time. And when we talk about the three-level scoring, again, remember we talked about the three-level scoring with Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant here, and Michael Jordan and LeBron. And again, we can clearly see here, LeBron James is the elite of the elite when we're talking about mid-range, ladies and gentlemen. He's just, I mean, as a three-level scorer, not as mid-range. Again, You guys are upset with these numbers that we have for Michael Jordan. Again, if you are going to accept that Michael Jordan was a good mid-range shooter based off of the numbers that exist for his for his career, then you got to accept what he shot at three-point shooting and what he shot at the rim as well. We all know Michael Jordan was not a great three-point shooter. Again, ladies and gentlemen, if we take away the if we take away the WNBA three-point line for the 2 years Michael Jordan played, or 3 years Michael Jordan played, he shoots less than 30%. So he's not a great mid-range shooter. He was, again, Michael Jordan's true greatness was his ability to get to the basket and finish at the rim. He is known as Air Jordan, not Shoot Jordan, not Jumper Jordan. He was known as Air Jordan, getting into the air and finishing. Because, again, it was very rare for anybody of his stature and his size and within his position as well as a guard to be able to exploit the paint as much as Michael Jordan used to exploit the paint in his career. And that's, again, because he was very quick and agile, had a quick first step, so he was able to make that ability to get to the rim, and he had obviously the jumping ability to get to the rim. He had a good vertical, so he was able to finish at the rim. Not to mention he could palm the ball, so he was able to move the ball in air to help him avoid obviously contest shots and obviously to make incredible creative shots that we all know Michael Jordan was great at, with those highlight films of him shooting all over the place and doing all those things. But when we're talking about being an elite three-way scorer, he's just not on the level of LeBron James. He's just not. You're not going to find anybody who shoots as good as LeBron James at the rim and who can shoot as good from the three-pointer and mid-range like LeBron James, other than someone like a Kevin Durant. That's really it, to be honest with you. And we're talking about shooting above 70% from at the rim, and shooting obviously good from three-point land. Obviously, we know Kevin Durant shoots good from three-point land, but there's not. Again, if you find a player that can shoot about 70% at the rim, more than likely they're not good at mid-range and they're not good at three-point shooting. They're going to be around LeBron James average. And the players that are better than LeBron James, that are good at the rim, are today's NBA players. Guys like Joker, guys like Luka, guys that are 2020 players. You're not going to find no 1900 players that are elite like LeBron James. You're not going to find no 2000s players that are elite like LeBron James. You're not going to find no 2010 players that are elite like LeBron James. We're starting to see the players that are elite like LeBron James in today's NBA. That's a fact. And 10 years from now, there's going to be more players that are as elite as LeBron James was in the 2000s and the 2010s. And by the time we get to 2050, ladies and gentlemen, forget about it. We might have somebody who has completely challenged LeBron James as the GOAT of basketball. And I can't wait. I'm going to be there for it. I'm going to be one of the old heads still talking the game like I'm talking it now. So that is for a fact. That is what we do here. So in GOAT James Kingdom, we only talk the game of basketball. So like I said, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we do here in GOAT James Kingdom, don't be afraid to check us out every Sunday, noon Eastern time, right here for the GOAT James Kingdom show with B. Lee and A. Johnny. We basically do that every Sunday. We're at over 150 episodes, over 3 years at doing this. You know, we are the best at doing this. Again, if you want to continue to support what we do here in GOAT James Kingdom, check out the GOAT James Kingdom membership. Again, where we have several perks and several tiers depending on where you're sitting at as a GOAT James Kingdom member. It's only $4.99 to support what we do here in GOAT James Kingdom as a Knights of GJK. You have access to exclusive GJK content, material, member chats, and show shout-outs. You also can become a Castle Knights of GJK, where you actually have access to the perks that are part of the Knights of GJK, but you get extra perks like exclusive graphs and memes made for you. We teach you how to make graphs and memes yourself. You also have access to a custom GJK t-shirt, which could be a t-shirt of your design of any kind. We can even create the design for you and send out the shirt for you. And then if you want to truly support what we do here in GOAT James Kingdom, you become a King's Guard of GJK, where you have access to all the other perks that the other members have. But here you also get access to your own special reels and videos that we can make for you to post and do stuff like that. We also provide you a GJK hat. We got GJK posters. And also we do special GJK contests that will definitely be available to King's Guard members first, more than anybody. So the last time we did a $100 contest where you were able to win $100 here from GOAT James Kingdom. If anybody want to know who won the last $100 from GOAT James Kingdom, that would be Ace Sturdy. Shout out to Ace Sturdy. Peace and blessings to you, brother. But again, that's what we do for all our GOAT James Kingdom members. Also, not to mention, like I said, we have our GOAT James members gala where we get together and meet up right here on StreamYard lobbies, and we talk the game of basketball, watch the game of basketball. We have our own private watch parties, and we watch different games. We also are part of Playback now as well, so Brandon and I will be doing more stuff on Playback when the season starts for the 2025-2026 season, so definitely check us out there. Again, we're going to continue to grow our content, continue to give you guys great content. You know, like I told you before, I do the Friday Night Exposure every Friday night right here on the GOAT James Kingdom channel and FYF Sports Debate. We are also, again, ladies and gentlemen, GOAT James Kingdom is on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're on TikTok. We're on Discord. We're also right here on YouTube. So, again, we do the GOAT James Kingdom show on Sundays. We do the Friday Night Exposure right here on Friday nights with me, A. Johnny the Exposer. We also have the Radar show, where we do that on Saturday nights. That's at 9 p.m. on Saturdays, where we have Brandon, John, and Travis argue and debate over any hot topic in the NBA regarding either the GOAT debate or just comparing eras or just talking about today's NBA. And again, this is what we're doing in GOAT James Kingdom. We're even growing even now with a Wednesday show where you're now starting to see some Wednesday shows because Alan Powell's, shout out to Alfred and the guys over there. They'll be here doing shows as well for the GOAT James Kingdom channel. So again, we're going to continue to grow our channel here in GOAT James Kingdom. We are definitely not going to stop. You guys cannot do anything to stop us. But you are also safe to, like I said, to comment, like, share our content. Keep supporting what we do here. For those who support us, we can't continue to say thank you. We really appreciate everything you guys do. And again, for all you little zesty Jeffries out here who talk nonsense, who want to get real crazy and reckless with us, you already know what's going to happen to you. And I just got a little quick message for you.
Fuck you, and fuck you. Who's next?
So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a great Friday Night Exposure with the Exposer. I have enjoyed it. It's been great. You guys enjoy the rest of your Friday night. And enjoy the rest of the playoffs as we will be kicking off the Western Conference Finals and Eastern Conference Finals this week in the NBA. And again, make sure you catch the GOAT James Kingdom show with B. Lee and A. Johnny this Sunday. Make sure you catch the Radar tomorrow night with Travis, John, and Brandon. And again, ladies and gentlemen, you have a great Friday night from A. Johnny, the Exposer. If you're a basketball fan and you're tired of basketball shows that talk about fake narratives and using non-basketball terms like killer instinct, playoff translation, gravity, come to GOAT James Kingdom. Welcome to GOAT James Kingdom, where basketball lives forever. You get to enjoy BB and A. Johnny talk basketball every Sunday noon Eastern time right here on the GOAT James Kingdom channel. Support by subscribing and also check out the membership at GOAT James Kingdom.
Who's the all-time leader of postseasons? The answer's Bron.
The Bible ain't tell us King James was from Akron. All-time leader in points ain't nothing average. Mavs drop Luka cause they terrible management. Or was it gambling? Yogo was 40 out here playing like a scrub. Brian 40 still dropping triple dubs. And I ain't the one to talk about nobody's son. Unless it's Gloria, but they call him the chosen one. Stephen A. trolling. We seen that boxing video, that uppercut bogus. Akron hammer over everything. You better zoom, soldier. You want
Trash. LeBron Ramon James Sr., born December 30th, 1984 at approximately 4:04 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the greatest human being blessed among us mere mortals? 4 rings, 4 MVPs, the league scoring record, and he got more records than MJ and Kobe combined. Loving husband and devoted father of 3. Don't you ever disrespect my basketball daddy, you understand me? You know what? Log off, uninstall the game, and tell your mama to ground you, cause your mouth is reckless. Go disrespect LeBron. LeBron James. Oh, I cannot believe you. I hope you break your ankles next pickup game, little nigga. Lakers in 5. Baby! He disrespect LeBron again.
You have now been exposed by the exposer.